Have you came across the save icon in games or MS Words which look like this or this? Due to lack of internet connectivity and unavailability of storage devices, storing and transferring data from one computer to another was a very difficult task. If we still didn't have the storage devices that we have today, such as flash drives, CD-ROMs, and cloud storage, we would be still storing data into large amounts of papers and images, which would be a very tedious task to search any particular kind of data. For comparison, we have 1 terabyte of hard drive which we use today compared to the 13 MB of a refrigerator-sized hard drive which we used in 1950s. That's why personal computer was a dream for many. Until 1967, a new storage device was introduced in the market which will revolutionize the way we use personal computers. The storage device goes by the name Floppy Disk. The most affordable and the universal storage device to store every kind of computer data, software and operating system from 1967 to 1990.
When we think of storage, our mind reminds us of USB drives. But this was an invention of the 2000s. Before that, what was used to store data which was easily portable? In the 1950s, Yoshida Nakamatsu invented the floppy disk. But due to the constant rejection of the Japanese companies, Nakamatsu sold the sales license to IBM Corporation in 1960s. Later then, the engineers and programmers of IBM researched and developed the invention of memory disk, originally called as floppy disk, in an 8-inch disk having capacity of 79.75 kilobytes. The product was launched in 1971 in the markets for public use. In the years later, the 8-inch floppy disk evolved into 5.25-inch disk with capacity of 360 kilobytes and later into 3.5-inch disk with capacity of 1.4 megabytes. So what is a floppy disk exactly used for? In the 80s and 90s, floppy disks were widely popular for storing data and for file transferring. These disks were used by different industries to store data. The software developers used floppy disks to store the updated versions of their software and then sold them to the customers. The aviation industry still uses floppy disks primarily for updating its system. In the late 90s, the disks became obsolete. So nowadays, floppy disks are a medium of art.
Now let's see the working of floppy disk. When the floppy disk drive is first powered up, the rotatory actuator and the index sensor both work together to place the read-write heads over track 0, starting track on a floppy disk. Once the sensor has reached this starting track, the computer is now ready to retrieve or write files onto the floppy disk. The information retrieved and written onto a floppy disk is controlled by the process of magnetic encoding. As the read-write head passes over designated tracks of the floppy disk, it uses magnetic polarization to write information onto the disk and to retrieve the information. In the reading and storing of data, the head uses the binary numbers 0 and 1, which correspond to the north and south poles of the magnet. Being that these two components, the read-write head and the floppy disk, are both magnetized, the computer sends either a positive or negative voltage to the head, which encodes this into a series of zeros and ones corresponding to north and south. The opposite process is done when the head is reading information. The head picks up a signal from the magnetized parts of the disk and the read-write head and sends the information to the computer, converting the charges to binaries.
So why floppy disks are not used nowadays? The major reason behind that is this. Yes, a USB flash drive, which has completely replaced the floppy disk in today's world. This is because USB flash drives are much faster, far more reliable, have larger capacity of storage, and are much cheaper as compared to floppy disk. To give you an example, an 8 GB USB flash drive, which I can fit in my pocket, is equivalent to 5000 floppy disks. Along with floppy disk, Nowadays we use CDs and DVDs instead of floppy disk for storage.